Another green hoodie video. Can you believe it? I can hardly believe it. Had a commenter from the first green hoodie video say that this is the green hoodie series. I like that. So we're continuing it. It's raining outside, so it's like I got to get out to the car. I was like, honey, watch the kids. I got to get out to the car to make a car video. It's raining. Longtime viewers of this channel know that I like to make videos in the rain. Oh, God, it fits with my depressing personality. I've realized I have a depressing personality after reading comments from the last two videos. Oh, God. I was expecting more trolls. There weren't that many trolls. Only a few. Yeah. These law of assumption folks. Holy cow. If you're relatively new here, and you want to know a few things, if you want to know why I don't respond to comments, generally speaking, on YouTube, it's because it's a fictional place full of people that you don't actually know making outrageous claims, especially when it comes to like the law of assumption community. And having been a moderator briefly on Reddit, I saw firsthand how out of control and how fictitious and unhelpful it is. Unless the person seems intelligent and is like really, spelling things correctly, using correct grammar and making a very, eloquent point with a comment on YouTube in regards to manifesting, my advice to you is don't trust it. Because I'm not saying that a lot of the success stories that are on like Sammy Ingram's channel and stuff are not true. I think they are true. A lot of the majority, I would say, of the somewhat regular sounding success stories that you hear or rather read on YouTube on the comment section are real, in my opinion. It's just there's so much bullshit and negativity, toxicity in regards to all of it, in regards to the social media aspect of this, just like there is on Reddit. I'll put a link above to all this, a video I made. I've made several videos about this, that I just would be very leery about what you read in terms of the comments on these YouTube channels. That's why I don't respond to YouTube comments, and would much rather just talk to you on email or, even over phone or Zoom briefly, because then we can get real about it. And this channel, and anybody who really wants to apply this, manifesting stuff more effectively in their life, they have to get real about it, in my opinion. You have to get real. So that's what is, today's video is going to be about. Another way to get real about this stuff. We've been talking about SP stuff. What I'm going to talk about today pertains to SP stuff and to any type of external manifestation you want to have. And most importantly, as I always talk about, my specialty, just feeling better inwardly. Because in my opinion and experiences, if you feel better inwardly more consistently, your external life also improves. That's the law of assumption in a nutshell, the law of attraction in a nutshell. But since, I was talking about the SP course, I'll put a link above to the last video we did, and, relating it to some of that Richard Dott's advice. You can use this for SP stuff as well. And I'll put a link below to the SP course if you're interested in purchasing that. It's over 6 hours of deep SP information and self-concept information. But an issue that we see all the time, in this law of attraction, law of assumption community, particularly in the law of assumption community, is this dogmatism and this inability to think out of the box when it comes to these ideas of using your imagination. And if we're willing to go more out of the box and think about our imagination more flexibly than just the suggestions that Neville gave, many of us will have more success. And a prime example of that is applying some of the advice that Maxwell Maltz gave over the years, most famously in Psycho-Cybernetics. I am creating, after I make this video, a Maxwell Maltz playlist on my channel. I'll put a link below to that as well, and hopefully a link above as well to that. We've made many videos over the last year or two on Maxwell Maltz's approach and advice. Psycho-Cybernetics is one of the great self-improvement / law of attraction books of the last 100 years. Unlike a lot of these older teachings, some people at least are still into Psycho-Cybernetics, which is great. Matt Fury is I've got the book here. Matt Fury is the president of the Psycho-Cybernetics Foundation. I'll put a link to Matt's channel, YouTube channel, below. Matt Fury's he's a good dude, with some really good advice in regards to Psycho-Cybernetics. But, what it comes down to is, like, if we've been into these imaginative ideas, if we're into someone like Neville or Joseph Murphy or Florence Scovel Shinn, and then we look at Psycho-Cybernetics, we can look at it in a different, more helpful way. And we can use some of the tips, techniques, and advice that Maltz shares in Psycho-Cybernetics in a way that works for us, for our unique sensibility. One of my criticisms of Psycho-Cybernetics is that, like, if you read the book, it can seem kind of overwhelming because there's so much advice, so many tips that he gives, and so much he seemingly says to do that you might get overwhelmed. The way to apply his advice, in my opinion, Maltz's advice, generally speaking, is to choose like one or two things you like in Psycho-Cybernetics. Similarly to how, like, you can apply one or two things that Joseph Murphy talks about in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Focus on one or two things and then go from there. Don't try to do all these techniques, like spend a half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour a day doing the techniques that Maltz talks about in Psycho-Cybernetics, because it very easily can overwhelm you. This actually relates to the section we're going to read from today, where Maltz basically says, start small. Get gradual about improving your life. Get gradual about thinking about manifesting an actual romantic partner that you like and love and being in an ideal relationship. Get gradual instead of visualizing your end and being unable to consistently visualize your end and feeling like you're failing because you can't do that, which is what inadvertently happens in the law of assumption community all the time. Maltz's advice is much more forgiving and allows you to make mistakes until you reach your goal. It's just easier in many ways for a lot of people. Again, I'm not saying that Maxwell Maltz is better than Neville or that anyone is better than anybody else. But you can incorporate these different teachings in different ways to make it work for you. And that's all that's important. It's not about me in the car with my green hood. It's about making these amazing, bits of underrated advice work for you and using your imagination more effectively. And I really do feel confident that some of the stuff that Maxwell Maltz talks about in Psycho-Cybernetics, if you're into the law of assumption, if you incorporate some of the Psycho-Cybernetic stuff, you're going to be like, oh, wow, this stuff works more effectively for me now. And this is what Papa Bear Tim tries to do, is share this stuff with you and help you incorporate it into your life so you can more holistically apply this stuff, as opposed to just being like, I'm into the law of assumption, So, near the end of the book, there's a chapter in Psycho-Cybernetics called How to Get That Winning Feeling. And it's just talking about being gradual. He's got a subheading in this chapter called Gradualness is the Secret. Very interesting. We hear feeling is the secret all the time. Here Maltz is saying gradualness is the secret. And Maltz, by the way, talks all about feeling, if you're unfamiliar with this book, okay? Gradualness is the secret. Weightlifters start with weights they can lift and gradually increase the weights over a period of time. Good fight managers start a new boxer off with easy opponents and gradually pit him against more experienced fighters. We can apply the same general principles in almost any field or endeavor. The principle is merely to start with an quote-unquote opponent over which you can succeed and gradually take on more and more difficult tasks. Pavlov, on his deathbed, was asked to give one last bit of advice to his students on how to succeed. His answer was passion and gradualness. Man, I love that. I love that so much. And I love that quote from Pavlov. Passion and gradualness. Someone like Neville's all about passion. But even though Neville constantly preached, be patient, he didn't get as specific as someone like Maltz did about gradualness, how to actually apply gradualness into your manifesting practice. Maltz is a master at explaining gradualness. A little bit later on in this chapter, there's this subheading, positive and constructive worry. Listen to this. This is good stuff. Mentally begin to play with the idea of complete and inevitable success. Don't force yourself. Don't attempt to coerce your mind. Don't try to use effort or willpower to bring about the desired conviction. Just do what you do when you worry. Only, quote unquote, worry about a positive goal and a desirable outcome, rather than a negative goal and an undesirable outcome. Don't begin by trying to force yourself to have absolute faith in the desired success. This is too big a bite for you to mentally digest at first. Use gradualness. Begin to think about the desired end result as you do when you worry about the future. When you worry, you do not attempt to convince yourself that the outcome will be undesirable. Instead, you begin gradually. You usually begin with a quote unquote suppose. Just suppose such and such a thing happens. You mentally say to yourself. You repeat this idea over and over to yourself. You play with it. Next comes the idea of a quote-unquote possibility. Well, after all, you say, such a thing is possible. It could happen. And then comes mental imagery. You begin to picture to yourself all the various negative possibilities. You play with these imaginative pictures over and over to yourself, adding small details and refinements. As the pictures become more and more real to you, appropriate feelings begin to manifest themselves, just as if the imagined outcome had already happened. And this is the way that fear and anxiety develop. He goes on to write, Maltz does, how to cultivate faith and courage. Faith and courage are developed in exactly the same way. Only your goals are different. If you are going to spend time in worry, why not worry constructively? Begin by outlining and defining to yourself the most desirable possible outcome. Begin with your suppose. Suppose the best possible outcome did actually come about. Next, remind yourself that after all, this could happen. Not that it will happen at this stage, but only that it could. Remind yourself that, after all, such a good and desirable outcome is possible. You can mentally accept and digest these gradual doses of optimism and faith. After having thought of the desired end result as a definite possibility, begin to imagine what the desirable outcome would be like. Go over these mental pictures and delineate details and refinements. Play them over and over to yourself. As your mental images become more detailed, as they are repeated over and over again, you will find that once more appropriate feelings are beginning to manifest themselves, just as if the favorable outcome had already happened. This time, the appropriate feelings will be those of faith, self-confidence, courage, or all wrapped up into one package, that winning feeling. Or, as Neville would say, that feeling of the wish fulfilled. I think most of you who are not totally stuck in the, dogmatism of the law of assumption will see the similarities between what Maltz is saying and what Neville is saying. And also, by the way, the obvious similarities with what Coué is saying in terms of autosuggestion. As your mental images become more detailed, as they are repeated over and over again, autosuggested over and over again. And by linking all these things together, these concepts together, and playing with them imaginatively, we can more easily see them manifest in our life. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that was clear. If you have any questions, or if you would like coaching with me one-on-one via Zoom, I can be reached at radicalcounselor.com.